Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you. You know, there are ministers who really want the music to spiritually and theologically line up with the principles being taught. I'm not one of those ministers. I just want good music. I just want music that inspires and lifts the soul, and it doesn't, and I tell David that a lot, it's thematically, it doesn't have to necessarily, fit what I'm going to talk about, but I just want it to lift the spirit and engage with the energy of it. But this one actually did, even though the song, the Billie Holiday song that most of us know, talks about, it's an empowerment song that if someone has their own, but really the point of Tony singing that is that I'm talking today about gifts and talents, and my gosh, isn't it inspiring? Isn't it inspiring to hear a singer step into their gifts and talents and deliver it so fully and so beautifully? And each of us is gifted, not exactly like that, but gifted and talented. We're going to talk about that today. A man had a dog that he thought was very talented. A man walks into a bar with a dog. The bartender said, "Excuse me, sir, you cannot have a dog in here. That's not allowed." He said, "Oh, I think you'll want my dog to stay. My dog, Joe, is a talking dog." The bartender said, "That dog doesn't talk. I'll give you $100 if that dog talks." "Joe, what's on the top of the house?" "Roof." The bartender raises his eyebrows and said, "I'm not sure about that." He said, "Okay, Joe, tell me, what grows on the outside of the tree?" "Bark." The bartender is getting very impatient. He said, "Oh, I got one more. Okay. Joe, who is the greatest baseball player of all time?" And the dog looks at him and says, "Ruth." The bartender has had it. He said, "That's it. Get out of here before I beat you. You and that dog just be gone. I don't want you around anymore." They hurried out the door, and the dog walking down the street next to him, kind of dejected. He looks up at his owner, and he says, "Maybe I should have said Altuve." More on the Astros later. So this is week 4 of our Touchstone series, Living on Purpose. And this is the third week that we're exploring these lenses with which we can look at our life and maybe determine what I keep calling the shape of our soul. And the purpose of this work we're doing is to help us discover who we truly, authentically are, so that we can make decisions about what we do and how we spend these precious days we have on earth in a way that not only serves the people that we know and love, but brings us fulfillment. That's what we're talking about. And this week, both in our Spirit Groups program and here on Sunday morning, we're exploring this idea of giftedness, talent. Now, I know it's really easy to look at a Jose Altuve and go, that guy's got talent. It's really easy to look at a Tony Glover and go, that guy's got talent, but I don't play baseball, I don't sing. Maybe I'm not gifted, maybe I'm not talented. But you are. You are. There is something that is just built into who you are, into your body, heart, soul, and mind. There may be multiple things that if you're engaged in this kind of activity, in this kind of way of being, you just feel lit up. We have some really talented grandmothers in this church. I've seen them. Nancy was here a couple of weeks ago with her grandkids, and I just saw her whole energy just lighten. You're good at that. You've got a talent for that grandmothering thing, Nancy Carty. And you determine what your gifts and talents are, but just know that you have something that is given by God to you, and it's meant to be honored and used and delivered. But I'm going to actually start, I know I've already started, but now I'm going to start by talking about a different way of understanding giftedness. Not the gifts you have, but the gift singular that you are. When I was new in this teaching many years ago, I was a brand new baby music director, and my minister at the time, Reverend Claudia Franklin, she asked me to learn and sing this song by John Denver. And I was like, I like John Denver. I'm a country boy, the country roads take me. I like all that. I like Annie's song, but this was a song I'd never heard before. It was called The Gift You Are. And David, I don't know if you know it, but I didn't think I was going to talk about this, and we could have had one of the singers sing it. But another time, it's a beautiful, beautiful song by John Denver. I just want to share with you the lyrics, the opening lyric. And just take this in. Imagine a month of Sundays, each one a cloudy day. Imagine the moment the sun came shining through. Imagine that ray of sunshine is you. Remember your darkest hour when dawn is so far away. Remember the way you longed for morning's light. Think of yourself as a candle in the night. The gift you are, like the very first breath of spring. The gift you are, the joy that love can bring. The gift you are, all of our dreams come true. The gift you are, the gift of you. Isn't that beautiful? This was not a message I received in the church of my childhood. I was told I was a sinner, needed saving. John Edwards, the great fire and brimstone American preacher, had a famous sermon where he talked about sinners in the hands of an angry God. And I grew up with an angry God. And I would be called good or a gift of God only if I said the right prayers and got forgiveness of all the terrible things I had done, because deep down I was original sin. You've heard of that, right? And then when I got to this teaching, I was told we don't believe in original sin. We believe in original blessing. And that the truest, most essential part of who all human beings are is good, is a gift. But people forget, and people believe the lies of their unworthiness, and they do behave in ways that don't reflect that gift. But I need you to hear that you are a gift. You don't have to pick up a baseball bat or sing a song like Tony. Who you are at core, at essence, is a gift. There is only one of you in all time. God needed you. You are a gift. In this beautiful book, This Thing Called You by Ernest Holmes, the whole short little book is just a beautiful affirmation of this very idea. Just have a couple of passages I'd like to share. Reached out to my friend Maggie Cole, and these are a couple of her quotes. Well, one of them is one of her favorites. You need not mold your life after another. Trust yourself. Believe in your direct relationship with life, and you will not be disappointed. Do not wait. Today is the time to start. Right where you are is the place to begin. And this is another from the same book. You belong to the universe in which you live. You are one with creative genius, back of this vast array of ceaseless motion, this original flow of life. You are as much a part of it as the sun, the earth, and the air. There is something in you telling you this, like a voice echoing from some mountaintop of inward vision, like a light whose origin no man has seen, like an impulse welling up from an invisible source. You are not the lies that you have been told. There is a voice in your soul that remembers your truth. You are a gift. You are precious. Ephesians chapter 1, verse 4. Even as he chose us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and blameless before him in love. Even in the Bible, that was the part that wasn't emphasized so much when they were talking about my sinfulness. But even there, before the foundations of this world was laid, God knew who you were. Blameless, in love. I've often talked about the path of my own recovery. I'm really excited that Esther Nicholson is going to be here in a few weeks at the end of our Touchstone program. She has a dramatic personal testimony of using these spiritual principles to heal her own life. And it is a process of recovery. And I'm not just talking about recovery from addiction, recovery from the lies and the false beliefs that we have taken on about who we are. It's a process. But begin it. Begin that process. Take a class here at Unity. Join a spirit group next time we open those up. Get a spiritual counseling session. See a therapist. Start a 12-step group. Do something that will begin to unwind this false narrative that you have been told and that you now tell yourself about your unworthiness, because I'm here to tell you that you are worthy. You are a gift. And you have been given gifts. I'm going to switch for just a moment. Now talk about not only are, that I wasn't planning on using this, so I don't have the reference, but the Bible verse that says, to whom much is given, much is required. I like that principle that if we are given a gift, it is meant that we are to use it. And it feels great to use our gifts, to trust them and step out into them, and it serves other people. Now, in the Spirit Group's curriculum, I distinguish, just for my own purposes, for teaching this work, the difference between a gift and a talent. Really, they mean the same thing, but the way I use them here is a little bit different. The gift is just who you are. It's a native state. You don't have to do anything, work on it. It's just the way you are, and each of us comes with unique gifts. But a talent comes from that gift, and it needs a little time and effort on your part. Tony didn't just come out of his mother's womb singing like that. It took practice. And all of our musicians, I know the years it took me to learn to play the piano, to sing, and to write a song. It took time, took effort. And whatever your thing is, you're worthy of giving yourself time. A teacher, a tutor. Give yourself the gift of having the experience to develop your gift. And here's the thing I want to tell you. The reason that it's important that we explore our gifts and talents is because nobody wants to spend the rest of the days of their life doing something they're not good at. Do you want to do that? Can you tell by my face that I don't think you should want to do that? I think that's a bad idea. And I know people that have spent 30 years in a career they hated. My father. And when he retired, he said, don't do that. That's why my dad always supported me doing music. He's like, I want you've got a talent. Go do that. Don't do what I did. And while you're using, let me say that. How do I want to say this? It feels really bad to spend a lot of time doing something you're not good at. Don't do it. I don't think it's a good idea. However, it doesn't always feel great when you're learning to do something you might one day be good at either. Do it. We sometimes underestimate the power of diligence and perseverance in this teaching. We love instant manifestation, instant gratification. We just want to do an affirmation and then everything is right where I want it and it's just perfect. Well, good luck. I mentioned process, right? And it's the same with developing your talents. It is worth the time and the energy you put into it. And if you really are gifted in that, and you might try some things and find that's just not my gift, and that's fine. Experimentation is wonderful. Try it and see. Especially when you're young, I hope parents and grandparents, you're encouraging your kids to try things. Now, I was always, if I decided I wanted to try it, I had to finish at least that season. My summer playing Little League was the worst summer of my life. I love watching baseball. I am a terrible baseball player. Jordan Alvarez. Growing up in Cuba, Jordan Alvarez was taught that the United States was a bad country. And the thought was so ingrained in him that when he was 12 or 13, he said he skipped English classes in school. Why would I go to an English class if I'm never going to go to the United States? Alvarez said he told himself. Look at him now. If you don't know, he's a Houston Astro. Very wonderful player. He was the 2019 American League Rookie of the Year, a level he thought he would never reach. He blasts baseballs harder than all but a few out of the few other major leaguers. He even sent one over Fenway Park's Green Monster in Boston in Game 5 of the AL Championship Series on Wednesday. And he was named the most valuable player of the ALCS for a Houston Astro team that is now going to the World Series starting Tuesday. So if you're not a baseball fan, you can just tune out for about the next 4 minutes, okay? But I hope you don't, because his story inspires me, and it does illustrate a spiritual principle I'm hoping to share with you today. When he was 16 or 17, he was gifted, and he was talented, and he got opportunities to play. He was actually on a small professional league and on a team in Cuba. It was called, let's see if I can get this right, the Leñadores de las Tunas, and I apologize for my Spanish speakers. He played 74 games in this Cuban league. In that time, he hit 1 home run. He describes it as a feeble, weak, little in-the-park home run. He was good. He wasn't great. And he was 6'5" and skinny. And if you know who he is, the guy has got some muscles, but at that time he didn't. His father was a great baseball player, and his family, and he loved it, and they really wanted to support him, and he was not going to get the training and the teaching that he needed in Cuba. And he tried to go through legitimate means to come to America and was disallowed by the government. And so the family made the decision to move to the Dominican Republic, where there was a lot of baseball, and all 30 of the major league teams are represented there and looking for talent, developing talent. And so he got noticed. And he was put with a trainer who got him in the weight room really quick. He got bigger and stronger. His hitting improved. He always had this great eye. There's a saying or an idea in baseball that big guys are not great hitters, that they just try and power through everything, and they don't really have the keen eye and the ability to put bat to ball. And sometimes they're trying to hit a home run every time they're up at bat. My dad, I don't know if he was a great hitter, but when deep into the Alzheimer's disease, you could say things. The language center of my dad's brain was never really affected, and there was this one thing we'd always say to him, almost to the very end. Go, Dad, what's your favorite thing to see in a baseball game? He's like, the numbers on the back of the right fielder's jersey, meaning that he had hit the ball over my dad said he struck out a lot, but he loved hitting home runs. But Jordan, he knows the value of just getting a hit, that his job is to get up to the plate and get a hit. It's amazing. He, even after he was drafted into the Major League Baseball, he still struggled. He had some physical issues. His stance, his grip, he still needed more coaching, more teaching. And everyone who worked with him said he put the time in. And he was willing to learn. He had been hitting a baseball his whole life, but they said, you're doing it wrong. Let's show you some ways to improve it. And he was willing to listen and do it better. He had to rehab his legs for a whole year. He was Rookie of the Year in 2019, but barely played last year. And in 2019, I don't know if you remember this, he had a great regular season, just hit all over the place and got to the playoffs and just nothing. Everybody was so disappointed. How many of you have had that experience? It's really going, things are really happening for you, and then you get your big opportunity, it's like, oh, it's not there. I've had that happen many times. This year, different story for Jordan Alvarez. Not only did he win the MVP award for his performance in this last series with Boston, but here's something he did in Game 5 and 6 that's never been done before. He got 7 hits in those 2 games. The Boston Red Sox entire team got 5. First time in playoff history that one player has out-hit an entire team. I'm pretty excited about this World Series. I love talent. I love seeing people give themselves the gift of putting the time in. You know, he was getting a lot of affirmation. A lot of people were saying, you're really good, you can be great. And he listened. Not all of us get that message that we're really good and can be great. That's why I'm here today. That's why I'm standing here before you to tell you you're really good and you can be great. If you're willing to bring some diligence and some perseverance to your spiritual growth and your healing, to discovering the shape of your soul, to becoming the person you were always created to be, and living from that authentic space, you're really good. You can be great. I love that none of us gets to be perfect while we're breathing. It just takes all the pressure off for me. Really, we're just here to do the best we can with the time we have. I love the idea that, do you remember in the book and in the movie, The Shack? The Trinity, the Christian Trinity, is portrayed by three different people. In the movie, Octavia Spencer played Father God, Papa, and she's one of my favorite actresses. And they're sitting around in this shack, in this cabin, they're talking, and they would mention someone, and Papa would say, "Oh, I'm particularly fond of him. Oh, I'm especially fond of her." This idea that you're God's favorite just loves you exactly who you are. That the universe just looks at you and just, oh my goodness, look at that. I'm so grateful for you. I love you so much. And aren't you worthy of doing what it takes so that you can be in touch with that sense of approval and welcome so you can give your gift? And why do we discover our gifts? But here's the real thing. I'm going to just read this to you. I've done it from memory before, but I'm a little tired today. This is from Rabindranath Tagore, who's a famous Hindu poet. He says, "I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy." I see a lot of people in this room nodding, and I know many of you watching at home are also nodding. You've discovered this truth. That bringing who you are, bringing your gifts and your time and your talent in service to others is a source of great joy. You know, I remember when people would tell me this idea about prosperity principles and that you have to give to be in the flow of giving and receiving. I was like, I don't want to do that. I just want the receiving part. I don't have enough to give. But after a long time of practicing these principles, I love it. It feels so good to give of my financial good into a good work. I love it. It really just feels so good and joyful. And it's the same with our gifts and talents. That you have been given these things that you can do so that you can serve, so that you can be a part of this amazing thing. And here's the thing. Not only does it feel good, it is the path of fulfillment. That you have been given these gifts so that you may give them into service, so that your soul may experience fulfillment. I'm going to read this from Rachel Naomi Remen. Reverend Karen Tudor loves this author and her books, and I know she's shared her with you a few times. That this was suggested to me by a friend, that I thought it was a really beautiful idea. She's talking, this is from My Grandfather's Blessings, and she's talking about her grandfather was teaching her the Jewish scripture and the stories of the Bible, and had just talked about Noah's Ark and the rainbow, and then started to tell another story. The story he told me is very old and dates from the time of the prophet Isaiah. It is the legend of the Lamed Vav. In this story, God tells us that he will allow the world to continue as long as at any given moment there is a minimum of 36 good people in the human race. People who are capable of responding to the suffering that is a part of the human condition. These 36 are called the Lamed Vav. If at any time there are fewer than 36 such people alive, the world will come to an end. Do you know who these people are, Grandpa? I asked, certain that he would say yes, but he shook his head. No, Neshumala, he told me, only God knows who the Lamed Vavniks are. Even the Lamed Vavniks themselves do not know for sure the role they have in the continuation of the world, and no one else knows it either. They respond to suffering not in order to save the world, but simply because the suffering of others touches them and matters to them. Well, it turned out that the Lamed Vavniks could be tailors or college professors, millionaires or paupers, powerful leaders or powerless victims. These things were not important. What mattered was only their capacity to feel the collective suffering of the human race and to respond to that suffering. And because no one knows who they are, Neshumala, anyone you meet may be one of the 36 for whom God preserves the world, my grandfather said. It is important to treat everyone as if this might be so. I sat and thought about it a long time. This was a different story from Noah's Ark. The rainbow meant that there would be a happily ever after, just as in the stories my father read to me at bedtime. But Grandpa's story made no much such promises. God asked something of the people in return for the gift of life, and he was asking still. And suddenly I realized that I had no idea what it was. If so much depended on it, it must be something very hard, something that required a great sacrifice. What if the Lamed-Vovniks could not do it? What then? How do the Lamed-Vovniks respond to the suffering, Grandpa? I asked, suddenly anxious. What do they have to do? My grandfather smiled at me very tenderly. Ah, Neshumala, he told me. They do not need to do anything. They respond to all suffering with compassion. Without compassion, the world cannot continue. Our compassion blesses and sustains the world. It's not about hitting home runs. It's not about singing like Tony Glover. It's about being in your heart. Did a little study on this idea, the Lamed Vav. Lamed is the Hebrew word for 30, Vav is 6. So it really just means the 36ers. That's what the Lamed Vavniks means. And the mystical teaching in Judaism has really, sometimes those rabbis, they really get into what this might mean. And one rabbi said that there are 36 in each generation, and another said there are 36 in each moment. And it changes moment to moment to moment to moment who the 36 are. And any time that someone is invited into compassion and they open their heart, they become one of the 36. You are invited to be one of the souls that sustains the world by simply being who you are, opening your heart, bringing your gift and bringing your compassion. Join me in prayer. And our hearts are open. We are here to receive and reveal the gift. And so as I speak my word over this sacred community, Unity of Houston, and all who are a part of it or all who are joining us for this moment today, what I know is that the light of God is shining brightly in the soul of each person within the sound of my voice. And that any obstruction to this light, any false belief, any false identity, any thought of I'm not good enough, it's released in this moment. It's not true, it was never true, it's not you. And instead, we open, we relax, we surrender into the deeper truth of who and what we are. We are daughters and sons of the Most High. We are here to be the heart of God, to be the hands of God, to bring compassion and love in all that we do. And we say yes, we are willing. Use us, God, to bring light and love to the world, to our families, and to ourselves. I give thanks for this word spoken, knowing that it is already accomplished. I release it into that beautiful servant, the law, knowing that it is already acting upon it. The prayer is being answered in our hearts right now. We give thanks, and so it is. Amen. You are amazing. Be who you are. It's all done. I love you. God bless you. Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.